I have one final question for both of you, because I heard someone ask it, and I wanted to ask it here on the show too, because I thought it was a really provocative question. You both have, I assume, Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall as guys that are first round grades, right? This year in 2024? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. You both have that. If that's the case, then why is Aaron Rodgers ranked QB20 right now in fantasy, Ryan? Because that, I think, is an interesting, you could talk about, you mentioned earlier in the program, we were talking about Jordan Love and Christian Watson, like there were a lot of downtrends with Rodgers. And I write up the quarterbacks every year for Black Book, and I pointed those same trends out last year where I was not really feeling it. But maybe has it gone so far down here with Rodgers at 20 where you want to give him a second chance? Because, hey, we've got two guys, not one, but two offensive graded fantasy first rounders. And we've got a bunch of rookies ahead of Rodgers. Ryan, do you think that's an overreaction in the market? Should people be giving Rodgers
I think the biggest reason Rodgers is going where he is, especially in these best ball drafts right now, is because Garrett Wilson's the only player anyone cares to stack him with. Like, there's no one else on the Jets where you're like, oh man, I got to get Aaron Rodgers to complete this stack now. And that causes him to fall, especially in these best ball drafts where we are really caring about weekly correlation. I think at QB20, Rodgers is like a technical value. I think he can absolutely outperform that. But outside of like I'm stacking him with Garrett Wilson in best ball, it's just hard to find a reason to push the button on him in that format. Mm-hmm. But I agree. Yeah, I get the optimism.
Well, in the Superflex, again, please, I have a checker pass with Aaron Rodgers, but Derek knows that well. But it is a provocative question, Derek, and you could say the same. Well, when you go back to the last couple of years of the Packers, wasn't it just Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones anyway, and a little bit of Allen Lazard from time to time? How different is that than what we're looking at in New York this year with Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson?
That's a definite fair point, Joe. And my point here was going to be like, look at how top heavy the offense is. If you get any time missed for Garrett Wilson, what happens to the rest of the offense? Yeah, could we have played the same game in previous seasons for the Green Bay Packers with how top heavy those offenses were? Sure. The other part about this is, okay, for Aaron Rodgers to really surpass expectations, we know we're not getting any rushing. We're going to have to get passing volume. We're going to have to specifically get passing touchdowns. At this juncture of his career, can he still cape up and be the guy that elevates everybody around him? So basically everybody outside of those two awesome players, can he elevate the games of all of the other on that depth chart right now?
There's a lot of
and
that
get to where there's a lot of it to where it's like, okay, because if he has a good season in terms of good and the Jets win 10 to 12 games, but Aaron Rodgers is good but not great, and he throws for 25, 28 touchdowns and he's efficient, is that helping any of us in fantasy? And that's the big wonder that I have, because the passing touchdown rates and being an outlier in that statistic is really what's helped Rodgers year after year after year after year. Can he still put on the cape, play Superman, and pull the bottom ends of this depth chart up with his statistical output? That's the part where I question. I think he can still be really good in terms of NFL success, and the Jets win games, and he's doing the things that he needs to do for them to be good on the field. I just question on how much he's able to do that for us in fantasy.
It's a good conversation, a great conversation with Ryan Heath. Make sure you follow him over on the Twitter machine, please. RyanJ_Heath. Check out his amazing work of Fantasy Points. Ryan, thanks so much for getting up early with us today and talking ball. Derek, you have to be here, but thank you anyway. It's still a fun Friday in the summer. And thank everybody else out there too. Thank you for listening and watching on the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Drop your comments below. Tell us who you're giving a second chance to in 2024. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Debro and Ryan, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.